to help our evening go a little bit slower. Did you guys notice that there's a bunch of people and there was a line forming before the event started? Yeah, so there's even more people coming as the night progresses. So we're trying to make it super easy. We want everybody to know restrooms. Do you see that exit sign right under that door? As soon as you pass that, hang a left. And then you'll get to another sign that says restrooms. You guessed it. Yep. Follow the arrow left. Then you'll see another sign that says restrooms. You guessed it. Yep, you can pee there. Yeah, it's great. So one of the things that we try to make it very easy to do, we make it easy on our security guys and our check-in folks. So you guys would have gotten a wristband when you came in. Okay, that thing is your key to life. If you lose that, we're going to have a really difficult time getting you back in if you leave. So what we're going to do for the evening is at 5:30, Brian and I are going to be doing a Q&A here on the stage. He'll be with us in just a moment. And we invite you, do you guys have your cell phones with you? Yeah, raise your hand if you don't have your cell phone with you. All right, can I have you put a phone number in your cell phone? It's 330-440-2539. Yes. That phone number will text the phone that's in my hand, and that is how we are going to receive your questions for the Q&A. This is a different phone that somebody's calling right now. Oh, hey, it's you guys. Eugene Woodruff. You got to be here. It just popped up on my phone. All right, so that's how the evening's going to go. I don't believe we have any other announcements. What I would welcome you to do is while we're getting started, we took a few questions from incoming emails that we're going to start with, but I invite you to write your questions to us now. We all right, Bishop? I have the, oh. Is it my fault? Mic 12. Do any of you have mic 12? All right. That's probably why you need mic 12, right? You are. Everybody's watching you. All right, fantastic. So I've got text messages coming in. I thank you very much for that. I'd like you to stand and welcome Brian Welch.
Thank you, thank you. Honored to be here.
All right, so could we start the evening just by finding out what's new with you? What's the plan for 2023? What's going on with music and ministry?
Woo! I mean, I feel like me and my friends in corner are always writing, doing something, you know. But it doesn't always last. A lot of it will go in the garbage. but it's just fun to do it. Right now, I'm doing a little bit of that and a little bit of speaking and a little bit of resting. We toured we were gone over 100 days last year, so to be at home. I tell people all the time, like sitting on my couch is like going to Hawaii for me. It just, because I'm always gone so much all over the world, and we never get a real chance to enjoy a city because we're in and out. And so just all the travel and whatnot, when I get home, I'm just like, just chill. And so that's it's all about rest this year.
Well, it has to be difficult to manage ministry, music. Like most people have one big deal in their life. Like they have their 9 to 5 and their families, but you manage an international Grammy award-winning music career, an international ministry, a family. It's really impressive.
When you say it like that, I mean, it sounds pretty awesome. No, I'm very blessed to have my dreams come true, you know, and it's just crazy. I just really try to remind myself of that, and then I had a dream that I never thought was possible come true, which is that Christ is real, and God is real, and God is not mad at us, and He's love, and He's all for us, and He's with us in the struggle, in this life, you know.
That's good.
And so that's the dream of all dreams to come true for me. That it's actually real, and it's not just some, you know, and He'll prove it to you. I mean, we could go on, but Jesus says that I will manifest myself to you. You know, He says it. And so I just put it to the test. I was like, okay, you say it, and then so do it. If you would have mercy on me, I was kind about it, you know. And He did it. We'll get into that, but man, it's so real, you guys.
So we got a lot of questions. Thank you very much for that. And I'm going to do my best to give you the hard ones, like the ones that get to the nitty gritty. So I've got two that came from two different folks, but they're kind of like a part A and part B. Part A is, how have you stayed sober after going back and being in the midst of your old lifestyle and getting back into the band Korn?
I never said I was sober. I never said that. I am high on the Most High God.
Right?
It was so quiet when I said that. No, but it's true. Like, obviously I am sober, but just I was trying to fill, and so many of you probably got the same thing. You know, I was trying to fill that. I'm sure you were, my friends here. You're trying to fill that thing in you, that emptiness. First, you think you're a kid and you're just like, I just want to have fun, go party, you know. Then you realize, like, when you become an addict, or a person like me becomes an addict, you're just like, oh, it's because I don't like myself. There's a hole there, and I'm not good enough, and all these different reasons why. And so when Christ came and I just surrendered, and I'm like, are you real? You know, like I said earlier, and He just poured His love into my heart by the Holy Spirit, Romans 5:5, and it was like I got addicted to that feeling of His life pouring into me. And that was it. I was like, it was like playing with children's toys, you know, as a kid plays with the toys and gets this big new toy and just like drops all the other toys and goes to that. And it's like clinging to that toy. That's what it was like. It's just, I was all over it. I was all over God right away, and I got addicted to that. And I've heard a lot of people, man, you just traded addiction for religion. But I actually met someone, and he's the God of the universe, you know. So I just traded. I traded in my ashes for beauty. I traded in my addictions for relationship, you know, for love.
Come on, that's good.
So yeah, that's how I do it. That's how I do it. That's how I stay off of alcohol and drugs. And I tried to drink, actually. I wrote about it in my book. I tried to drink in 2017, responsibly. It didn't quite work out. I just was like, look, a lot of my friends, they're cool. You know, they're healthy. They can have a couple drinks and they're done. Once a month, twice a month. And I'm like, I want the freedom to have that. And I tried it, and I was like, oh, Lord, I can't even drink 2 drinks. Why can't you just make me normal? You know? And I was like, Lord, okay, I know I can't drink, but I'm going to quit next week. So I drank for like a week. That turned into a month. And then I got scared that I was an alcoholic again. Boom. And it was funny. I don't tell a lot of people that, but I was on top of a rooftop bar, had some whiskeys, had some beers all day. I was a daytime drinker for that month. I didn't, because I don't like the night no more. But around 4 p.m., this guy comes up. He's a young dude. He's trying to make it in Nashville, you know. And every word that he was like a spiritual song. Yeah. And every word that he was saying was like going, pew, pew, pew. And I'm like, got my glasses on, all like trying to play it, you know, just, is everybody looking at me? And like tears start coming down my glasses. I'm just like, and then the Lord was just like, this isn't you. Why are you trying to be the old you? This isn't you. I've made you a brand new creation. And His love was just like all over me, tears. And I'm just like,
yeah.
Where can I go from your presence? And I was done. I was done. I stopped drinking. I haven't drank since. I just didn't want it anymore. He did it again. I even tried to go back to alcohol, and he saved me again. He's that good.
Come on. So these folks, are all of you from like Tuscarawas County, Stark County? Say amen if you're from Tuscarawas County. Amen. All right.
That's a lot of you.
Yeah. How about Stark County? All right. So you're all from around here. You know this is like a really religious area, right? We grew up in like hellfire and brimstone. In religion, they teach you that if, like, to touch nothing unclean, like you don't listen to that music, you don't watch those movies, you don't go around those people. I've gotten like 5 questions so far about where you reconcile your faith and being in the midst of some of the most like darkest and dangerous places in music. So what's that look like for you?
Wow, just think of people told Jesus not to go anywhere that was unclean. That would be a problem.
Yeah.
We'd be in deep doo-doo. Right? Oh, wow. The Son of God, perfection, begotten, not created, begotten, came to earth, hung out with prostitutes and sinners and da-da-da. We know the story. And met us here in our corruption. He was born. Can you imagine God being born as a baby and have to come out just like, wanted to like, take care of me, feed me. Like, you know what I mean? Talk about humility. We don't know humility. And I just don't, look, I left the band and there was drug addiction. It was like Sodom and Gomorrah like backstage every day. A lot of my friends, like, they went through a life change. They had epiphanies. They're not all like doing the same thing I am spiritually, but you know, some are, and they're open. And everyone's old now, and it's like it's not. There's no groupies ever backstage around us. There's no drugs backstage ever. Maybe a crew member might be smoking some weed, but like none of that. Everyone's married or with a significant other, kids. If the people that asked that question came backstage and just hung out, they'd be like, wow, this is really normal. It's like my biggest temptation is apple pie and chocolate cake at the catering room. So, you know, some of the songs have, you know, some of the old stuff where Jonathan's just like, our singer's crying out, you know, he's angry. He's like, you know, you did me wrong. He got bullied. He got abused. He got spiritually abused. He's spoken about it in the public a lot, where he was a part of a church, and they came at him, and his dad got saved and brought him in, and they made him burn all his records, and like a 12-year-old, you know, and traumatized him. So there's issues, and he sang about a lot of the depression and whatnot, and so being back there, you know, it's not so bad, you know, to me. And I reconcile it like this. Like, those people, a lot of the fans are just like I was back when I needed Christ, and everybody knows I'm like the Jesus guy in the band. It's a testimony, you know, and that, you know, just being with them. I think it's pretty clear, you know, and the number one thing, though, is the Lord called me to it. And I've been walking with him 17 years. At the time, it was, I don't know, 9, close to 10, and he led me. And I know his voice. His sheep knows his voice. And he was like, I need you to go back to the band. And he goes, all those people are my people, and I want them. Yeah, right? And I was like, gosh, Lord, you are ruining my testimony. Not really, but I was like, man, so many people love the story that I walked away from everything. I walked away from a $23 million check that Korn got. Yeah. Right before they signed the check to him. I was going to get my piece, and I left, and they got all of it, and I didn't get none of it. And so the Christian world was like, look at this story. He left everything. He became a fool for Christ, and he doesn't care. And so all that. So my whole dream was to be like rocking in the miracles and wonder, signs and wonders, and doing music and going and evangelist style stuff, you know. Yeah. And it just never was my calling. I kept hitting walls, and, you know, it just didn't happen. And I was fine. I learned about suffering. I learned about like just having lack, and it's okay to, the apostles had it rough. The disciples had it rough. They didn't. Right. So I was fine with that. It was like, I learned that it was the opposite world, but he called me to it. And so I've been back there 10 years. Lots of cool stuff has happened,
So of all of the time that you spent ministering while you were with the band, if we were to ask you, like, what's the one moment, the one person that you've helped that you'll never forget that signified that was the right decision?
I mean, there's a member in my band that lost someone like really close, and I did the funeral basically, and just to be there for him and to help, say the prayer before she was buried. And it was like, wow, I never would have even been a part of this if I wouldn't have come back. And then, I mean, there's a lot. I can't just say one. My singer, when I played the show with Korn, and I played one song with them when I was out of the band. Right before I came back is what led to all the, just all the facts to get me back in the band. But he just hugged me and he said, like, if this is the last thing I got with you, like just playing this song, thank you for this memory, because I left in a really bad way before. And he just, I can just see like people softening up as the time passes, and just there's been a lot of fans that just, there's one fan. There's a story. This guy came to a Slipknot show. It was the Slipknot, Korn, a couple other bands, and we had a whole tour. And me and the bass player were back there, just telling our stories to the crowd by the merch booth or whatever. This guy videotaped it and put it on Facebook, and it blew up. It got tens of thousands of whatever views. And he wrote, "These guys led me back to faith, and I started going back to church." Well, a little bit after that went viral, he was a hiker. Instead of like drinking and doing all that, he got into hiking and doing healthy stuff. And unfortunately, he had an accident hiking, and he fell off a cliff and died. And just that hit me. I was like, so God, like, that's profound. Right. That I was put into this guy's life. We were put into this guy's life to help lead him to God, to get him right. And then he dies, and he's like right there with him. Of course, there's questions of he got his life right, like he should have had a big calling, but it's just really profound when you think about that stuff. Another little girl was confessed trying to, her friend, I think they like the same guy, and her friend was deathly allergic to something, and she was putting that inside of her friends, trying to and so we just got to pray with her. And another at that same show, it was a wild night. Same show, this Satanist was just like he encountered God, and he felt God's presence before we even did our event. Yeah. And it was funny because the tour was called Prepare for Hell, and all this God stuff was happening. Yeah, it's great. But it was he texted us, and we're like, where are you guys at? Are you speaking? He texted a friend of mine. Yeah, we're over here by the merch booth. I'm at the merch booth. No, the other one on the other side. It's a 10-minute walk. And he's like, man, for the last half hour, I've been feeling this. I feel like God's like doing something with me. What do you feel? I just feel like peace, and I'm crying, but it's not bad crying. And I need to talk to you guys, And we didn't even touch him or talk to him or do anything to him. God was hitting him at the concert. Yeah. Then he came to us. So that was pretty rad.
That's incredible. That's I asked for one story, and I got 10, so there's probably 10,000 of them, right?
I mean, yeah. There's a lot. But,
yeah. So it's fruitful. You went back into darkness. You did exactly what Jesus and Matthew did. They went back to the place that they came from. Yeah. And they led other people out. Yeah. That's remarkable. And it probably takes a massive amount of strength, integrity, and fortitude to know why you're there, because you're faced with temptation every day.
I mean, it's just, like I said, we surround ourselves we cover ourselves in protection, and we're all accountable, and so there's really no temptations like that. I mean, I will never say the never, I tried to drink, but it's funny, I I tried to drink, but that drinking phase wasn't with the band. I started it with my Christian brothers. It was like having some wine, and then that led to it. So the road, the corn stuff, it didn't have nothing to do with that. Right. Now, I did drink a couple times on the road, but what led to it, And so, yeah, it was just, I don't know where I was going with that. But.
No, it's good. I think a good question, though, is when did you come out of managing sobriety and into like living life where sobriety wasn't necessarily your forethought, but now it's about who you are and what you're here to do? Do you remember a transition, or did it ever happen?
It was kind of, I don't know, man. As you're a musician like that and get everything, like a free alcohol, free food, everything you want every day, the luxurious living, they just, they pamper you, hotels, buses, and everything. And just so the drinking every single day, and then doing coke all throughout the years, and then went to meth. I did meth for around 700 days straight before I found Jesus. Yeah, nice. And so just I didn't know how to quit because I was addicted. But when I met Jesus, it was like I wanted that. Like I said before, and so I was pretty much done with the stuff. I was just tired of drinking. I was tired of the drugs. So it was easier for me, It was like a kid in a candy store every day. They got free candy after school every day. One day they're going to be like, I don't want to go to the candy store today. It was like that. And then, then after being sober for a while, it was like our heart's made for love, man. And when I got love poured into my heart, it was just like I was just content, I wasn't looking for that anymore. I did have some thoughts once in a while, sure, a nice cold beer. And I moved to Phoenix, it's like 115. I want a nice Corona with a lime by the pool, I had those thoughts, but I was just like, but I've had thousands and tens of thousands of those in my life. Like, why do I need another one? Yeah. I would tell myself that, and it just helped me, so. And I would I poured in. I would go to church. Church was, what do you mean church closes after Sunday at, 2 p.m.? I want to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I want to go to church. I was like, it was everything. And then I was like, okay, well, I have an Apple computer, so I'm going to go find sermons online, listen to 3 songs worship. Whatever they did at church, I did it by myself at home. Yeah, and there's a scripture that says God's his eyes roam around the earth looking for a heart that's completely his. And he saw me seeking after him big time. And so, yeah, what you do in secret when no one's looking to get closer to God is where the rewards come. And by rewards, I mean he starts to reveal and open the revelation, understanding, intimacy, and all that stuff.
So how many of you are in recovery? Can we ask that question? Come on.
Come on. Now I know why I got so quiet when I said I'm not sober. They're like, wait, what?
So one of the things that Shanda and I've got to help a lot of friends through is the pain of relapse. Like you can have 10 days, you can have 100 days, you can have 10 years. And it seems like one misstep just completely like eradicates any value of that time that you spent sober. So if you had to tell somebody one thing that's condemning themselves and beating themselves up over a relapse, what would it be?
Oh, this is good. Okay, we are programmed. We're like a hard drive. We come into this world and we're like a hard drive, and we get programmed all this stuff and a lot of it is dysfunctional, right? And so our parents and our elders or teachers or aunts and uncles, whatever, if we mess up, like little Jimmy over there, he goes to his friend Timmy. Hey. And he pushes Timmy. There's all these friends, and he pushes Timmy off his bike, and he goes, and all the kids laugh at him, right? But mom is in the window at the house, and she sees it. Boom, she smacks that door. Boom, Jimmy, get over here. What are you doing here? And he's in trouble. Or Kevin's in his room. His mom walks in, and he's looking at an adult site. What does mom do? Oh, my God, Kevin, Williams, Kevin, get him fed. Well, the Father and Jesus are not from this world. And what does God say? He's slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. So, yeah. So when we mess up, when we're in recovery and we mess up and we beat ourselves up and we think God is mad at us and we have to go through this thing where, okay, when I grew up, my dad, mom, whatever, they got angry at stuff. And so you got to let them cool off, and it's going to take some time, and then you come back a while later when God is not like us, and he's gentle and loving and understanding right when we mess up, and we don't have to stay away from him.
That's right.
And so if he is that kind to us, and he wants us to love others and as we love ourselves, that's saying to love ourselves like God loves us. So we're putting so much pressure and guilt and condemnation on ourselves when we should be like, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm a lot better than I used to be. And I fell, and instead of beating myself up, I'm going to be gentle with myself and loving and kind like God is, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to brush my knees off, get all the dirt off, and I'm going to go again. And you know what I mean? That's it, you guys. Now, the key is not to fall. That's the biggest thing because it does cause issues. But like, if you do, just get back up. Just get back up. You're never like counted out. You're not looked down upon by God or others or like your family in the faith. They're just like, come on, you got this. It took me a couple times. If anybody read my book, it was like fail after fail after fail after fail after fail before Christ. I tried in my own strength, and then, I just it's such good news. That's why they call it the good news. It's like, my first pastor years ago, he said the translation it means it's hilariously good news. Like, it's good news is not even, there's no words in the human language that can describe how good it is. So yeah, don't beat yourself up.
So we're going to do 2 more questions, then Brian has some friends that he wants to introduce to you that came with him to be here in New Philadelphia with you. So I'd like to give them a hand real quick just for traveling in.
Where's Ant?
Anthony's probably praying for somebody.
Or he's doing push-ups.
Or doing push-ups.
You'll see in a second.
Did you guys hear any stories that came out of Applebee's last night? Yeah. You did? Raise your hand if you heard about a crazy man at Applebee's last night. We're walking out, and Anthony walks up to a group of guys and goes, "Do you like rap?" And then he starts rapping in the middle of Applebee's. Could you imagine if I started
all about Jesus
rapping?
and the Holy Spirit, the rap was. And he's like, but it was funny because these 4 black dudes, really cool guys, and he's like, "Do you guys like rap?" It was just funny, and he just doesn't care, but he's cool and everything. And it was awesome, but yeah,
it's good. So this one should be quick, and then one final one to close us out. Have any of the other members of Korn given their lives to Christ?
Well, our drummer grew up in the faith, and so it was really religious. Like they couldn't. I don't think their instruments were loud or something or whatever. It was, but our singer was in church he was on a worship band actually when he was a kid. Okay. And so after all that traumatizing stuff, he kind of was like, oh, I better deal with it. And so he started playing in church. His dad had a music store in town and everything. And so the bass player is a Christian. He's a strong Christian. He's on hiatus with the band right now. The other guitar player, Monk, he's totally open, but like they're into other, like they're seeking, stuff like that. And I honor the seeker, honestly, because we're all like, we're born to die here, not to be all depressing, but we're born to die. We only have a certain amount, and so I honor anybody seeking to find truth, but yeah, it's a lot of people ask me that, and honestly, where God has moved the most is just inside of the crowd, outside to the crowd, I guess I should say, but yeah. But everyone's open, and everybody knows who to go to when they need prayer.
Yeah, that's good. So Shanda wanted me to slip one in before the final question. She wants to know if tofu goes bad.
Tofu?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's not real meat?
You got it.
I think it has a longer shelf life than chicken, but yeah, but you're good. But
All right, last
that's
question.
an inside joke because like 23 years ago, Monkey, our guitar player, we'd have management meeting and stuff and all this serious label tour stuff and be like, all right, any more questions before we close it? And he goes, Monkey's like, yeah, I got a question. Does tofu go bad? He said it dozens of times, so sorry. I said the joke yesterday and they're like, what? So you want to bring them up?
One more question.
Okay.
Last question. Let me read it the way it was written. If you had one chance to tell everyone here one thing, what would it be?
Ooh. One chance to tell everybody here one thing. I mean, you know the answer. Tell them the answer.
They're deeply loved by God.
Yeah, something like that. Like. Yeah. God is real. God is love. God is closer than the breath that you breathe. In him we live and move and have our being. Just like the fish are in the ocean, they can't escape from the water. You are in God, and he's right there. For in him we live and move and have our being. Now, start praying to him. Stop being a dummy. Get your head out of your butt. All right, you guys ready?
Yeah, bring your guys up.
All right, I want to introduce Anthony Santana, Jimmy Brown, ladies, hide your purses, Roger Hill. I'm just joking. So yeah, I'm not a one-man show, you know, so when I rejoined Korn, I met some people that had some real amazing connections, and I met Anthony out there, and I get with people that are like-minded so that we can hit up people and pray together and see what God does, you know. And I met Roger out at a festival I played. I met Jimmy at a concert in California, and like I said, Jersey, Fireman Jersey right here, the Applebee's rapper. I met him in a Jersey. So a lot of dramatic things have happened. I'm not a one-man solo show. In fact, I see more power come through my friends at rock concerts, backstage or in the crowd or whatever, than through my hands. And I love that. And I just want to, we all have a story. I wanted to bring a couple friends, share their story, because I'm going to share mine later. So stick around all night. It's going to be awesome. But you guys just share like 5-7 minutes or whatever, or probably 5. Try to keep it to 5 about your story, you know. So Roger, you go first.
All right. So I grew up going to church. My mom and grandma always made sure I went to church. I grew up in a Baptist church, and it was pretty dead. So I just thought God was some old guy sitting on a throne judging everyone. And you could just say the sinner's prayer on your deathbed, and you were good. So, and then as a kid, I was raped and molested and all these horrible things that I'm not going to go into great detail about because I'm going to keep the time short. And then I started hearing demonic voices when I was real young, telling me that I was born gay, that I was born all these different ways. And then when I was 10, I was molested some more and just horrible things. And then I started seeing the demons in the mirrors. I started being able to actually see them standing behind me and still talking to me, telling me horrible things. Started cutting. I would take a razor blade and just cut myself, usually in areas that no one would see unless I was taking a shower. So in the general area, I would cut myself. Got into that kind of stuff. At 16, I tried to commit suicide the first time. I tried to put a shotgun in my mouth, but I'm a pretty short guy, so my arms aren't very long, and I couldn't pull the trigger, so I went and took a bunch of pills. Should have died that day. I fell asleep. I woke up, puked up every pill that I had taken, and none of them actually dissolved at all. Like, they all were literally right in the sink, and I had no idea why. The demons were telling me it was because I was stupid and couldn't even kill myself. At 16 too, I started to get into, I was used as a sexual ritual in the Satanic church where I was from. So they would do horrible things to me, and demons and stuff were released and all this kind of just crazy, crazy stuff. Not going to go into great detail again. and that just sent me down a path that I never recovered from. I started using alcohol and drugs when I was young, just actually, I always tell people it kept me sane, actually. Like, that's the one thing that I think that it made me seem normal, because all the pain and all the hurt, whether it was physical or emotional, I was going through all that stuff, and I couldn't tell anyone. Because I didn't want to be gay. I didn't want to be transgender. I struggled with all that. I struggled with my sexual, and this is back in the 90s. I'm like 50 years old. So this is back in the 80s and 90s when that stuff wasn't as prevalent as it is today. So I went through all that, and then I got into being a racist as I got older, and then just horrible things, and obviously I'm all tattooed. I started to do all that, I'll tell a story. The first time I met Brian, I go to pick him up at a hotel in Appleton, Wisconsin, and I'm sitting on the couch talking with some of his bandmates, and all of a sudden I hear, holy crap, someone's more tattooed at one of these things than I am. And that's how I met him. So that's how I actually, but anyways, so back to the testimony thing. So then I spent the rest of my life trying to kill myself. So I always tell people I lived a suicidal lifestyle. So I would pick fights with guys who I knew were carrying guns or knives and could literally kill me at any moment, hoping that they would. I played Russian roulette. I let people put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger. I let people shove a gun up my butt and pull the trigger, hoping that it would just blow my brains and everything out of me. So that's how I spent the rest of my life. My adulthood was just drinking. I had numerous overdoses. How I survived it, I had no idea at that time. Obviously, once I got saved, I knew why. But I had no idea. Like, why I would wake up when my friends were dying and I was actually living. So I had no idea. So at the age of 33, I was going back through alcohol treatment to get my driver's license, because I was going to actually move to Phoenix, Arizona to open a tattoo shop for a friend of mine. So I needed a driver's license, and I was going back to get it. And I told the lady at the treatment center I was going to go to church because I knew she'd let me out of treatment quicker if I did. And I was working the program. I went to the NA and the AA meetings, and I just kept sitting there thinking at those meetings, like, man, these people are supposed to be happy, because they were mean. Like, they were angry. There was no peace in their life, no joy. And I thought when you quit drinking, you're supposed to be happy. And, like, these people weren't. So I was like, I don't know what's up. So I was working the program. I decided to go to this church. I called my niece on Friday, asked her if she wanted to go with me. She was 5 years old at that time, and I think she's like 23 now. And she said, yeah, I want to go, Uncle Dodger, because she couldn't pronounce her R's, so she called me Dodger instead of Roger. So we go, and we're sitting in the parking lot of this church, and I said, we could just go to McDonald's, and you could play on the playground, and we could just tell everyone we went to church. And she said, but that would be lying, wouldn't it, Uncle Dodger? And I was like, well, I said, depends on how loosely we use the term lying. I said, there's lies that, it's not that horrible. And so we went in to the church. She went to children's church. And of course, the first thing this church does is, there was probably 100 people in the church. So the first thing is the pastor says, oh, we got sinners in the house. And everyone turns and looks at me. So then he says, we got to do the sinner's prayer. So again, everyone's looking at me. So of course, I raised my hand, say their little prayer. Nothing had changed. My life I was just going to go back and do what I wanted to do. And they started to sing the song, Mighty to Save by Hillsong. A lot of you might know it. So they were singing that, and the pastor said, I want everyone to sit down. And I just want you to close your eyes, bow your heads, and just listen to the words. So I'm listening, and all of a sudden I feel like the spotlight on me, like it is now. I feel like the spotlight was on me. And so I did. I opened my eyes, and I'm looking around. There's no spotlight. It's dark. They had all the lights down. And I thought, great. Because they videotape their services and put them on a TV channel. And I thought because I'm the tattooed guy, so they wanted to show people. But there was no spotlight. So then it happened a second time, and I did the pirate thing that time, where I closed one eye and kept one eye open, because the pastor caught me looking the first time, and I thought I was going to be in trouble. So then it happened the third time, and then I saw Jesus standing in front of me. And he said, I tell people, you don't always want to see Jesus, though, because when Jesus actually appears to you, it's usually, this is what he said to me. He said, it's life or death, Roger, your choice. He said, You can have life with me, or if you walk out these doors, you will be dead. You will spend the rest of your life in prison, or you will be buried 6 feet in the ground. Your choice. And at that moment, I said, well, life hasn't been too good so far, so let's try it. I said, but I don't know how to do any of this. I said, and I can't struggle with the drugs. I can't struggle with the alcohol, the sex, any of that. I said, you have to take it away completely. And he did. It was gone. I didn't have any urges to go out and do any of that. And, and we talked and we did some things. I made some deals with God that I would share my testimony, only the stuff that I wanted to share about the drugs and alcohol. I never used to share about being raped and molested and the suicide stuff. I would always say I attempted suicide once, but I never shared all that other stuff until a few years ago, and then God got hold of me and said, that deal you made, that was with yourself, not with me. so that was it.
Wow. Thank you, Lord. I want to say two things. Number one, if you think you can't do it, and you can't get through, like it's too hard, just remember the story that you can, right? That God can, Jesus can do it. So if you're in recovery right now and you're like, you don't see this new creation that you're gonna be yet, you just stick with it and keep breathing. Number two, I didn't have all that taken away from me right away. I did have the drugs and the alcohol and stuff. I struggled with anger for years. And I knew, you know what I'm saying? And so everybody's different. Some people are like that. It's rare. It's more rare, I think, where it's just like that. And then most people, it's a process. So be patient with the process. Jimmy, you're up.
Sweet. How you guys doing? Awesome. So like he said, my name is Jimmy. I grew up in Southern California. My parents were married when I was born. I don't really remember much of my childhood, but from looking back at pictures, there was a lot of partying going on in my house. My parents, my aunts and uncles, basically every weekend at my house was a party. So needless to say, partying all the time creates marital problems. So by the time I was 5 years old, my parents got a divorce. My brother and I were raised by a single father. I think from the time that I was 5 until I was 11, I maybe saw my mom like a handful of times. And then a month after my 11th birthday, my mom committed suicide. That left me very confused, very angry, very hopeless. I didn't understand. It cemented the ungodly belief that I'm not enough and I'll never be enough into me. By the time I was 13 years old, I had come into agreement with the lie that I would also die by suicide. I don't know if it was courage that I was lacking or what it was, but there was something that I couldn't do it to myself by like actually taking my life. So my thought process is that I would use everything and consume drugs, alcohol, so that I would actually die that way. So from 13 until 33, I lived a life that was just consumed of partying, drugs, women. Everything that the world tells you is actually going to fill you, like Brian was talking about earlier, that emptiness inside of us that we're all looking for what it is that's going to fill us. And some of those things in the world, they fill you for a moment, but you automatically go right back to where you were. In my early 20s, I started playing music with my brother. We were very fortunate. We continued to grow and do well, and I thought that was going to be the thing that actually finally fulfilled me was music, and I was going to have a career, and I was going to be a rock star. And the more that my band would continue to grow, the things in my personal life would just become more and more dark. So as my band's continuing to grow, I'm continuing to use more alcohol. I'm starting to drink earlier in the day. I start drinking at 6 in the morning. I start basically, the biggest thing is when I would have the suicidal thoughts, a lot of times I would be drunk or on drugs. And towards the end, I started to have these thoughts when I was sober. And while I was sober, the enemy continued to speak to me about planning my suicide. Thankfully, my band opened up a show for a band called POD. Sonny, the singer. Yeah, you can clap. Sonny, the singer of POD, Brian, and a few of our other friends started an outreach called the Whosoevers. That night, I met a man named Ryan Reese that invited me down to church. He had no idea that I was planning my suicide that week. And I went to church that Friday, and my friend Ryan's assistant shared his testimony with me about suicide. And I'd never heard anybody openly speak about suicide before, having suicidal thoughts or just struggles with it. And basically the night that I was planning on taking my life, and the way that I was planning on taking my life, I went home in the bathtub and sat under the water in the shower and basically cried out to Jesus and said, if you're real and you really did in that man's life what he says you did, I need you to come into my life. I woke up the next morning and I felt like I was high on something I had never been on before. Now I have language for that, and I know that the Holy Spirit was all over me. My life has absolutely never been the same. The man that I am today, I have no idea how I got from there to here. I actually do. It's Jesus. And yeah, it hasn't been easy at all. I fell back into drinking like Brian was talking about earlier, and it's just amazing that the way the Lord is just so kind to us. Even when we go back to what he healed us from, and we go back to those things, and he's just so kind and so slow to anger, and he just loves us so much.
Come on. Out of all the faiths out in the world, I honor people in their search and their seeking. I told you, you'll never hear the dramatic, life-changing stories you will with Jesus. I'm just saying. Ant, you're up.
What's up, beautiful people? My name is Anthony Santana. I'm from New Jersey. I'm excited to be here. I'm honored. So my parents, they didn't know the Lord, and so they were alcoholics and drug addicts and stuff, so I was left alone a lot of times. There was a lot of violence, a lot of stuff that I should have never seen growing up, and I was molested also from the ages from 4 to 6, and I remember just feeling so guilty and shameful, like I internalized it like it was my fault or something, and I started developing a sexual hunger at such a young age, and started to pursue and look for that, and by the time I was 11, I was full-blown addicted to pornography, and by the time I was 16, I turned to drugs. So I started out just huffing anything I can, rummaging through medicine cabinets, and I was trying to escape from the pain and the neglect that I felt. My real dad, he also struggled, so he was in and out of my life, and he left. When I was 11 years old, he left me a note and dropped off some of my stuff that I had left over his house. He got in some trouble legally, so he moved away, and I didn't hear again from him till I was 18. But growing up with my mom and my stepdad, they gave their absolute best, which wasn't very much, because their upbringing was horrific. So, but I was running the streets. I was a drug addict. I started listening to Korn. But no, like Jonathan Davis, he had his experience as well, so I could relate to him. And I was like, wow, these guys have dreads, so I want to have dreads, you know what I mean? That's when I first started. It's so funny that God linked us up together. I was actually a couple months ago doing Jonathan Davis's dreads at his house, like telling him about it, like, yeah, you're the reason why I started getting dreads, so I'm doing his hair and stuff. It was cool. I got to share my story with him and stuff. But yeah, by the time I was 21, I had 2 children. I was a full-blown heroin addict, crackhead. I was breaking into doors in broad daylight, stealing anything I could. I came across some guns, so apparently they don't like that too much. The cops, one of them was a cop's gun, and I was facing a lot of time. That cop had to go to work without his firearms. And I don't know. I'm just a walking zombie, man. I just need to feed this addiction, and so I went to jail, and at this point I was like, diagnosed ADHD, bipolar, manic depressive. I used to cut myself. Like I had a lot of self-hatred as well, and I didn't want anything to do with God because I thought that he was in control and everything happened for a reason. So I couldn't trust him. I couldn't open up my heart to him because I didn't trust his character, because I didn't understand what was the reason, and I didn't understand why I had to go through all these things. Come to find out later, that he's not in control, he's in charge, and that everything doesn't happen for a reason. He's given us choices. He's given us free will. So my parents have been given free will, and out of the not knowing the love of God, they weren't able to introduce me to the love and the protection of the love of God, so I was raised outside of that, where trauma and pain and stuff had its way with me. So I called out to Jesus. I'm on the floor, and I'm like, Jesus, if you're real, if you're the one, show me, just like these guys. And I had an encounter with the Holy Spirit. And it's hard to find words for it, but for him, but it was, he was like electric, liquid, fiery love pulsating through my entire being. But more than that, like I was trembling, feeling his power. And I was crying and I was laughing hysterically. I was more high than I've ever been in my entire life. And he was pouring out his love into my heart, like downloading his nature and his character. And I felt like, I felt home for the first time, and that's been 14 years ago. He set me free from all of that stuff, you know what I mean? So he's so good. He's so good. And he's not partial. He's not partial. Like, listen, sometimes things happen immediately. Sometimes, I know a lot of us has probably cried out to God, like, God, why don't you just do something to get me out of this? And it's not that he doesn't hear our prayers. It's we don't understand. Like we built up barriers in our hearts to where he's not going to force his way in, Faith comes by hearing, and hearing of the word of God, and it's the truth that sets us free. So the more truth we hear, the more barriers get broken down, and then we can actually be in position to receive what he purchased for us already. So I just be encouraged. All you seekers out there, who are willing to consider that God loves you beyond that you can even imagine, that he's closer than the next breath that you breathe, that he's more real than the ground that you stand on, I promise you. He wants it way more than you could ever imagine. He loves you. He loves you unconditionally. There's nothing you could do about it. And our job is to practice learning how to let these walls down, how to get environments like this, how to hear inspirational stories like this, put them in the file in our minds, and bring them before the courtroom of our mind, explore these possibilities of the reality of God, right? Not just reading empty words, not just, God, just help me get out of it, but just opening up our hearts to him and saying, Jesus, I need to know who you are. Show me who you are. And he will, and he's good. He's way better than we think, and he's way closer than we think. So thank you for letting me share.
Give it up again, Roger, Jimmy, and Anthony. We're just getting started, you guys. Thank you. We're just getting started tonight, so stick around, okay? But I just want to tell you one thing or a couple things, man. Jesus will reveal himself to you. If you're hearing these stories and you're thinking, well, God hasn't done that for me. God hasn't, liquid fire. I'm laughing and crying. I didn't have that crazy. I had that peace come in, like an overwhelming peace, and I felt God's presence where I knew immediately it was him, because it was too perfect to be anything else. And I was on drugs, and I shouldn't feel this love and this just deep, overwhelming peace. And that led me. So it was little by little, right? But we're going to pray for you guys later. And we're going to pray for encounters with God. And if these testimonies do anything to you, I just pray that they provoke a healthy jealousy, because I've done that so many times in my life where I heard people speak on stage, and I'm like, I want that. So I would go home and be like, God, I want that. You're no respecter of persons. You did it for them, you do it for me. Don't leave me out. And so it provoked a jealousy, a healthy jealousy, I believe, to know God better. And then things started to shift. So don't close up your heart and be like, well, it happened for them, and it's not going to happen for me. Kicking rocks down the street, not going to happen for me. No way. Get it in you like, it's going to happen for me. What it's for me too is for everybody. Maybe it'll look a little different for you, but it's coming. It's coming. And he is the Most High, and he will satisfy us so that we don't want anything else in this world. So that's all I had. See you guys in a bit. Stick around. There's a lot more coming.
Yep. So let's give them a hand. All right, so here's what's next. Next door, you can go out. You see the exit sign? You go out and take a right this time. And as soon as you get to the next room, some of the best recovery resources in Tuscarawas County have staff and resources and people over there. We're going to spend the next hour getting to know one another. There's a few things that I want you to know. One, is Miss Jody Salvo in the room? Yeah, Miss Jody Salvo. Let's give her a shout tonight. Miss Jody's heart for the recovery community in Tuscarawas County is one to be rivaled and envied. And she has poured her life into the recovery community and out for the recovery community. And we didn't want tonight to go by without acknowledging her presence and the work that she does in Tuscarawas County. Second, I want to recognize Pastor David Fisher. Would you stand, please? Pastor David has a cooler shoe collection than I do. And he was, the first time I met him, he was wearing orange Chucks. Really nice. So he's the pastor of Relentless Church in Akron. He exclusively works with the recovery community, and he's another guy that's paid the price. He's there for people. He picks people up. He takes them to rehab. He's creating programs for them all the time. And he was actually one of the people in charge of. Actually, I can't even say that. He heard about the event, and he started looking for resources to host it. Like, he just believed in it and got to work. So I wanted to thank you for partnering with us to make this happen. Lastly, we'll be starting at 7:30 on the dot tonight, and you won't want to miss it. Like, the roof is gonna come off this place. Doors will open at 7 o'clock. Here's my recommendation to you. Don't leave. Don't leave. They're going to open doors at 7 o'clock. I would do my best to be in here by then to get your seat, okay? Next door, here's the two things. Next door, make sure you see all the recovery resources. Second, if you see somebody who has a red ministry team shirt on that's close to me right now. All right, see those shirts? Okay, if you're just having a rough time, right? It's just been a tough day. Hearing these things just triggered way too many things, and you find somebody in a red shirt. They'll talk to you. They'll understand you. They'll pray with you if you'd like. And just don't leave here alone and hurt. There's no reason to leave here alone and hurt. There's tons of people here that desperately love you. Okay? And I believe that's it. Aaron, is that it? That's it. Guys, enjoy the hour. We're going to start at 7:30, and we thank you so much for being here. We'll see you in a little bit.